You're watching Eagle News International for the headlines.
COVID-19 pandemic.
The number of confirmed coronavirus cases around the world has soared past 1 million and fatalities have topped 50,000 as the U.S. reported the highest daily death toll of any country so far. New York and Los Angeles urged all of the city's residents to cover their faces to protect others from getting COVID-19 from those who might have the virus but aren't showing signs. And we're live in Australia, London, and the Netherlands. I'm Alma Angeles, and Eagle News International starts now. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases around the world has soared past 1 million and fatalities have topped 50,000 as the U.S. reported the highest daily death toll of any country so far. Despite more than half the planet living in some form of lockdown, the virus is continuing to spread rapidly and to claim lives at an alarming pace, with the U.S., Spain, and Britain all seeing their worst days yet. Take a look.
Of infection. Over the past 5 weeks,
if the rate of usage.
We are dying. We are getting sick. It doesn't matter how many ventilators we get if we are dead.
If the rate of usage.
COVID-19 pandemic, I'm deeply concerned about the rapid escalation and global spread of infection. Over the past 5 weeks, we have witnessed a near exponential growth in the number of new cases, reaching almost every country, territory, and area. The number of deaths has more than doubled in the past week. In the next few days, we will reach 1 million confirmed cases and 50,000 deaths.
The United States now accounts for around a quarter of all known infections around the globe, and its death toll is rocketing up. About 6,000 people have died in the U.S. outbreak, according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University, more than 1,100 of them in the last day. White House experts say between 100,000 and 240,000 Americans could ultimately die from the disease. Nurses and healthcare workers gather in front of the Moses campus at the Montefiore Medical Center to protest at their working conditions and the lack of personal protective equipment.
We are dying. We are getting sick. It doesn't matter how many ventilators we get if we are dead and cannot run the ventilators. If respiratory therapists, if doctors, if nurses, if frontline caregivers are sick, are dying, there won't be anyone left to take care of the public.
Bag. Every day when I go to work, I feel like a sheep going to slaughter. My colleagues and I are writing our last will and testament. I'm 28 years old. We fear that we may not survive this pandemic, and yet we show up every day to this hospital to take care of our community.
I'm outraged because we are in America and we shouldn't have to be fighting for PPE. The president should have released the DPA Act by now. There's a lot of people that are unemployed, and I feel that they should hire the people to be essential so they can produce masks.
New York's hospitals have been struggling to deal with the tens of thousands of cases of COVID-19. The state governor says the supply of ventilators is now running low.
If the rate of usage, the rate of people coming into hospitals who need ventilators, if that rate continues, in our stockpile we have about 6 days. Now, if the apex happens within that time frame, if the apex increases, if the apex is longer, we have an issue with ventilators. We are also still in the business of looking for ventilators, to buy ventilators. It's too late to ask a company to make them in any way that would work for our time frame. You look at our time frame, 7 days to 30 days, no one is going to be able to make a ventilator for you in that period of time. Nationwide, parts of the country that have a later curve, yes. If you give a company 2 months, 3 months, they can ramp up production. I don't have a New York Defense Production Act, right? The governor can't say to a company, we need you to manufacture this. But I ask businesses just to think about the situation we're in and a possible opportunity. It is the cruelest irony that this nation is now dependent on China for production of many of these products. I don't think the federal government is in a position to provide ventilators to the extent the nation may need them. You know, I don't think it's a question that this federal government has ventilators that they're not distributing.
New York Mayor. In New York, Mayor Bill de Blasio urged all of the city's residents to cover their faces to protect others from getting COVID-19 from those who might have the virus but aren't showing signs. On Thursday, he urged them to cover their faces when outside and near others to help stop the spread of the virus. Let's listen in.
Important point. We're advising New Yorkers to wear a face covering when you go outside and will be near other people. So let's be clear. This is a face covering. Again, we'll talk about the details in a moment, but it could be a scarf. It could be something you create yourself at home. It could be a bandana. It does not need to be a professional surgical mask. In fact, we don't want you to use the kinds of masks that our first responders need, that our healthcare workers need. Don't use those. I can't be clearer. Leave those alone. Leave those to the people who need them the most, who are saving lives. But you can create a face covering with anything you have at home right now. The reason for this guidance is because the studies are showing that some asymptomatic people, some pre-symptomatic people appear to actually be transmitting this disease. We don't have perfect evidence. It doesn't conform with what the initial information showed us weeks ago, but it does seem to be more and more evident. What that means is when you put on that face covering, you're protecting everyone else.
New York is the epicenter of America's deadly COVID-19 outbreak. The city has recorded almost 50,000 confirmed cases, including 1,562 deaths, according to the mayor's office. As of Thursday evening, the U.S. had a total of more than 243,000 declared cases and over 5,900 fatalities, according to a running tally by Johns Hopkins University. President Trump told reporters at his daily White House briefing on the coronavirus that he was not considering making it mandatory for all Americans to cover their faces. But Dr. Deborah Birx, the coronavirus response coordinator at the White House, said it's important that people do not think masks replace social distancing or hand washing.
Hospitals are running out of medications. Some hospitals don't have protective gear for staff or family members of patients that come to the hospital. We're running out of medications, we're running out of equipment, and we're even running out of oxygen, which is something that patients that have COVID-19 need.
A lot of people are only showing.
Several doctors and a nurse at a New York hospital described the lack of protective and medical equipment in their facility and warned against the misconception on the age of people affected by the coronavirus. Take a look.
Again, we'll talk about we're advising New Yorkers.
Hospitals are running out of medications. Some hospitals don't have protective gear for staff or family members of patients that come to the hospital. We're running out of medications, we're running out of equipment, and we're even running out of oxygen, which is something that patients that have COVID-19 need.
A lot of people are only showing mild symptoms with this, and they're going out with just mild symptoms. That's the problem with this disease because they're spreading it. And they may go out, they spread it to their parents, their grandparents, and people who are dying with this. And you can think of it as your lungs being filled with fluid, like you're drowning. And once you get to that point where you're drowning, you need a ventilator to stay alive, and we're running out of that equipment for people. We don't know who's going to do well, who's not going to do well. It's like you hit a tipping point, you start drowning, and you do really poorly, and we're running out of equipment in the hospital. Nearly everybody coming to the emergency department has this, and we're getting completely overwhelmed.
And one of the points I just want to touch on with this disease is that there's a common misconception going around that it's only the elder people in our population that's being affected. This is simply untrue. Every day we are having people, younger adults, come in who have very little comorbidities or other illnesses going on, who are being seriously affected by this illness. Affected to the point to where they have to be put on a ventilator just to breathe.
Like the one that's beeping in the background.
Exactly. The one that's beeping in the background is a young patient who was presumably healthy before they came in.
The other side of the coin is we have limited staff. The same staff that is working with much more people. And when you have all the patients coming in, you know, we have to line them up one after the other, bed by bed, trying to intubate anywhere we possibly can to save people's lives. So that's why we're encouraging all the young people to take it seriously and self-isolate and stay with your family for now until, you know, we try to figure this thing out.
The Pentagon removed the captain of the coronavirus-stricken USS Theodore Roosevelt, saying he mishandled communications over how the outbreak was sweeping through the warship. Acting Navy Secretary Thomas Maudley said Captain Brett Crozier was wrong to distribute to a wide range of people copies of an emotional 4-page letter describing the threat of the outbreak to the ship's nearly 5,000 sailors, allowing it to be leaked earlier this week before top defense officials saw it. Take a look.
Crisis. I'm here today to inform you that today, at my direction, the commanding officer of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, Captain Brett Crozier, was relieved of command by Carrier Strike Group Commander Rear Admiral Stuart Baker. The executive officer, Captain Dan Keeler, has assumed command temporarily until such time as Rear Admiral Select Carlos Sardiello arrives in Guam to assume command. Rear Admiral Select Sardiello is the former commanding officer of the Theodore Roosevelt, so he's extremely well acquainted with the ship, many members of its crew, and the operations and the capabilities of the ship itself. He is the best person in the Navy right now to take command under these unusual circumstances. I understand, both as a parent and a veteran, how critical our support lines are for the health and well-being of our people, especially now in the midst of this global pandemic.
Acting Navy Secretary Thomas Maudley said that while there have been 114 cases of the coronavirus in the crew so far, none has been severe, and Crozier overstated the severity when he suggested sailors were going to die without fast action. Crozier demonstrated extremely poor judgment in the middle of a crisis in his handling of the letter, Maudley said. It misrepresented the facts of what was going on the ship and created a little bit of panic that was unnecessary, he said. In addition to frightening families of the sailors, he said it raised concerns about the operational capabilities and operational security of that ship that could have emboldened our adversaries to seek advantage. The Roosevelt, one of 2 U.S. Navy carriers in the Western Pacific, is now docked in Guam, where most of the crew is being offloaded and placed in shore housing to decontaminate the vessel. By sidelining the Roosevelt, the virus outbreak has hobbled a key asset of U.S. military readiness, though U.S. defense officials say there are no immediate strategic threats and that the ship can be put to sea quickly if required. Earlier this week, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said adversaries' armed forces are also challenged by COVID-19. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is remaining tight-lipped on Canada's own projections of the coronavirus. Let's find out why. Here's Thomas I Like This.
The question on a lot of people's minds today, and on the minds of journalists, is just how bad is this going to get in Canada? Now, many countries have released predictions on the spread of COVID-19 and just how many lives it might claim, but that hasn't happened here yet. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was pressed on that today at his daily news conference. He said there's a range of scenarios out there, but you have to be careful about what is made public and when. You've got to have all of the right information.
I think people can imagine a range of scenarios that shows everything from everyone gets suddenly better within the next few weeks to this situation just keeps getting worse and we face a situation like some other countries in the most dire situations have. There is a range out there, and just highlighting that range is not as useful or important as being able to get clearer numbers and clearer analysis of what we are likely to face.
Trudeau says there's a backlog of information from the provinces that they have to sort through. He says once that's done, he may have something to tell us. Well, on the question of just how long these restrictive measures will last, Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, was a little more specific. She couldn't give an exact date, of course, but she says don't expect it to end for several months.
So even if and when we do ease those restrictions, people do need to be prepared for the fact that we will continue to be isolating those who have COVID, isolating close contacts of those individuals. That measure will be in place for many months. But the other society-wide restrictions, I anticipate, again, that we will likely need to have those in place for some months when we look at the spread of this, because if we start to ease them off, we will see spread start to increase again. And I know that's challenging, but unfortunately, these measures are all that we have to protect each other.
Looking at the numbers now, it seems like the number of cases in Canada is going up by probably about 1,000 cases a day. We're at about 10,000 now. Deaths have topped 125. In my province of Alberta, cases are increasing by about 100 a day. Right now we have 968. 13 of those people died, but on the bright side, 174 have recovered. Now, what else can I tell you? Taxis and rideshare services in Edmonton are now limited to carrying just one passenger. They did make an exception for shuttle buses, but the passengers have to be spread out. Again, the big thing, and this is hard for some people to understand, the big thing, stay home. And if you have to go out, keep your distance. Don't visit family. Don't visit anyone else. You know, my wife celebrated her birthday on Wednesday, and friends joined in, but it was by video link. Now, we couldn't share the cake, but we could share the fellowship throughout our video conference. For now, this is going to be the new norm. I wish you all good health, take care of others, and take care of yourself. Stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Thomas. With cases of the coronavirus in New Jersey rapidly rising, Governor Phil Murphy toured the soon-to-open pop-up field hospital in the Meadowlands Exposition Center. El Aguilar reports from New Jersey.
One of the four pop-up hospitals provided by the federal government to the state of New Jersey is set to open on Monday for non-coronavirus patients who need hospital care. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and U.S. Senator Bob Menendez toured the first field hospital in response to the growing need for hospital space in New Jersey. The 250-bed hospital, set up at the Meadowlands Exposition Center in Secaucus, New Jersey, is smaller in size but similar setup to the Jacob Javits Center in New York City. Jacob Javits Center is set up for 1,000 beds. Beds are similar to army cots, surrounded by white curtains for privacy. This basic setup in the center will also have the temporary pharmacy, showers, sinks, toilets, nurses' station, and break room for healthcare workers. The field hospital will serve as a step-down facility for patients that would usually go to the area hospitals, which could eventually be converted to intensive care use. The other field hospitals are set to open soon as the Army Corps of Engineers work day and night with the help of FEMA, the New Jersey State Police, National Guard, and health officials to ensure these pop-up hospitals met federal specifications. Reporting from New Jersey, USA, El Aguilar for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Google said it will publish users' location data around the world from Friday to allow governments to gauge the effectiveness of social distancing measures brought in to stem the COVID-19 pandemic. The reports on users' movements in 131 countries will be made available on a special website and will chart movement trends over time by geography, according to a post on one of Google's blogs. Trends will display a percentage point increase or decrease in visits to locations like parks, shops, homes, and places of work, not the absolute number of visits, according to the post signed by Jen Fitzpatrick, who leads Google Maps, and the company's chief health officer, Karen DeSalvo. From China to Singapore to Israel, governments have ordered electronic monitoring of their citizens' movements in an effort to limit the spread of the virus, which has infected more than 1 million people and killed over 50,000 worldwide. Singapore. In Europe and the United States, technology firms have begun sharing anonymized smartphone data to better track the outbreak. Even privacy-loving Germany is considering using a smartphone app to help manage the spread of the disease. As she emerges from quarantine, recovered COVID-19 patient Diana Barrett is eager to join the battle against the pandemic, hoping to donate precious antibodies researchers hope could treat others. Eldad Hod and Steven Spitalnik, transfusion medicine doctors leading trials at the Columbia University's Irving Medical Center, insist on the importance of participation from potential donors like Diana and are hopeful that in the end, science will win. Take a look.
We can be superheroes. We are living in a state right now where we have no control over anything. These are unprecedented, frightening times where everything is beyond our control, except for we as survivors can help. We can be the ones running towards the fire in our own internally built hazmat suit. And we are keeping a running list of every study that we can find around the country and making those available and acting as a matchmaker of sorts between research institutes and survivors to make the system more efficient and expedite the process, because we don't have time to waste. Lives are on the line.
We don't understand a lot about the immune response to this virus. We're assuming it's similar to other viruses, and there are good reasons to think that. And so we think that within 7 to 14 days after the onset of an infection, that people will develop an immune response and eventually make high amounts of antibodies. Although exactly when the peak of antibody production will be, we don't know, and how long it will stay permanent, we also don't know that either. This is a crisis, and so we understand and we are amenable to doing things that will take shorter amounts of time, but hopefully will yield at least some rigorous results. And so what Eldad described as a controlled trial with plasma, with normal volunteer plasma versus convalescent plasma, are things that we firmly believe in.
And so it's really important to have enough plasma in our supply so that we can support the trials and support the compassionate use, because otherwise we won't be able to figure out where this works best. And that's why we need as many donors to come out and donate blood, because we need to fill our blood bank with plasma so we could do the trials appropriately to really figure out where this works. Names and things, but people have put their egos aside and banded together to try to work together for the common good. And I think in the end, science will win out. And so I think I am hopeful, and I'm hopeful that something will eventually work and slow the virus and buy us more time, and eventually we will have either a vaccine or a drug that will prevent the severe illness, and then everyone.
All right, Eagle News will be back with the news from Singapore, and our EBC bureaus are live from Australia, London, and the Netherlands. We'll be right back.
Alamin ang mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin ngayong panahon ng enhanced community quarantine dahil
may pamilyang naghihintay, kalabang di ialay sa aking kamay hanggat makakaya'y iaalay buong lakas na taglay alang-alang sa maraming buhay magsisilbing paranggalang sa bayan kong nahanap sa pangyari sinumpa ay aking gagampanan.
Mga piling opisyal ng gobyerno, mga hukom at prosecutor, mga magsasaka at mangingisda, at mga miyembro ng AFP, pulisya at iba pang otoridad. Dahil delikado ang sakit na COVID-19, higit na hindi papayagang lumabas ang mga senior citizen, mga may iniindang sakit at mga buntis. Bawal din ang gumala at umistambay sa daan. Manatili sa loob ng bahay. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to.
Singapore will close schools and most workplaces while people are being told to stay home as the city-state ramps up curbs to stem the spread of the virus. The country has generally been successful in keeping the outbreak in check and had previously resisted imposing the kind of tough restrictions seen elsewhere. But Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said it was time to apply a circuit breaker following a sharp rise in locally transmitted cases. Meanwhile, the coronavirus has left businesses around the world counting costs. In Australia, almost half of the businesses surveyed by the Australian Bureau of Statistics say they have experienced an adverse impact due to the pandemic. Here's Regina Jaurige for more. Hello, Regina. Joining us live, Regina.
Hi, Alma.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So what's your update for us?
Here's the latest update, Alma. Just like other countries, Australia has been affected by coronavirus crisis. There are 5,224 confirmed cases of COVID-19 as of 6 a.m. today, 3rd of April. There have been 248 new cases since 6 a.m. yesterday and a record of 23 deaths. More than 270,000 tests have been carried out across Australia. Most confirmed cases acquired the infections overseas, including onboard cruise ships. And recently, NSW authorities have confirmed there has been an outbreak of COVID-19 among backpackers in Bondi after hundreds were captured ignoring social distancing rules. While many Australians have been alerted to the health risk of COVID-19, some businesses and consumers are expecting possible shortages of all kinds of unexpected products. Most stores are running out of stock due to interruptions in Chinese manufacturing. Various industries relying on imports from China can expect delays, and this could have a huge effect on the supply chain to the retail industry. Hyundai have already issued a consumer warning and advised dealers they are expecting about half the cars affected in the coming months. Small businesses relying on tourism are also suffering losses. Meanwhile, coronavirus restrictions are also causing shipping disruptions to everyday household goods, food supplies, and personal protective equipment. In response to this, the government has launched a portal that encourages companies to register their capacity to supply and meet local demand. This portal helps manufacturers to retool quickly and supply additional products. This will allow businesses to continue their operation and offer more job opportunity. As cancellation of international flights cause headaches for Australian agricultural exporters, the Australian government announced 170 million Australian dollars support package for international export sector to deal with pandemic-driven supply chain issues. The support package includes 110 million Australian dollars to coordinate flights from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth to deliver fresh produce to China, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and United Arab Emirates. Flights will also allow medicines and medical equipment to be imported. That's all for Australia, Alma.
Regina, what are your observations now in Australia when you're shopping, online, on the streets. How is it now in Australia, in Sydney?
My observation is it's not unlike us before that you can buy as much as you can. So
Okay.
because there's always a limit, and people are aware of that, and they are practicing social distancing. So when you are lining in a queue, you have to maintain a distance, and people are being very careful. They have to make sure that they sanitize and wash their hands so to avoid any sicknesses.
What about online? Have you noticed anything different now when you browse online?
You mean shopping online? Most
Or
of the
social
things that
media or shopping? Yeah. Have you observed anything different now?
is most of the stock actually products are out of stock because mainly we rely on imports from China or other countries. So due to port restrictions, most of the products were delayed and cannot be delivered on time.
What about social media? Have you noticed anything different from the time that there was no COVID outbreak yet, and now that we are in the pandemic era? Have you noticed anything different on social media?
On social, now it's different because people are like being concerned, and most of the citizens they give advice. They're actually monitoring as well. Unlike before that, I see in social media just posting some food or when they go out.
Yeah.
And now people are also monitoring and helping as well.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Regina, and we hope to hear more updates from you. Please stay healthy, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alma. This is Regina Howige from Sydney, Australia, and we live in interesting times.
Indeed. Let's now go to the United Kingdom. The government said it was rushing to build more emergency field hospitals ahead of an expected surge in coronavirus cases, hours after recording a record 569 deaths from the disease. That and more updates from Micah Manyalak. Micah, thank you for joining us. Hi. Good to hear from you. Thank you for joining us, Micah.
Thank you for having me.
What are your updates for us, Micah?
So we are currently on the second week of our 3-week lockdown here in the United Kingdom. As of figures, confirmed cases are 33,000 and recovered of 191. And as deaths follow as 2,921.
Okay, so you economists there are proposing a 3-month lockdown to bring infections down. What can you say about that?
I think due to the nature of the disease being so heavily contagious, implementing a 3-month lockdown in the UK will really serve its purpose to slow down the spread of the coronavirus, all the more encouraging social distancing and really extending that period of restricting people from going out, avoiding physical contact to prevent the amount of people contracting the disease, for that statistic of confirmed cases to either remain stagnant or to not increase so significantly. Also, because the disease, it's quite hard to distinguish those who are affected without being tested. So some individuals might not know that they are actually a dangerous risk to others around them. So, isolating themselves for a longer period will all the more help slow down the spread.
So in your personal view, which country may be a good example to follow in dealing with this, with the virus and in dealing with the economic consequences? Can you
So in dealing with the virus, I believe South Korea is doing a very good job in making sure that tests are being conducted regularly and as much as they can. So I believe they're doing a drive-through test. So this allows at least 15,000 individuals to be tested daily. And in this way, you know, you can distinguish those who are affected and what procedures they must follow so that they're not risk to others. In terms of economic, I think the UK are doing a good job in really accommodating for those who are experiencing financial difficulties, especially with small businesses having to close down as they are not non-essential shops. So they've implemented a ban on evictions as well for tenants. So those who are finding it hard to pay their rent, they wouldn't have to experience such a problem. And also, really providing economic aid. They are now providing welfare support for those who can't work from home and cannot therefore pay for essential items for their household.
All right. Italy death rates seem to be slowing down now. They're starting to flatten the curve. How do you think London could better address the coronavirus situation?
I think in terms of our National Health Service here in the UK, I think worldwide, we really need to value our health workers because they are, a treasure to us, especially at this time. I think providing tests for the health workers as well, because they are such, heavily exposed to the coronavirus in itself in their daily job. Providing tests for them is really crucial because then, we need to know whether they're affected and if they are still working with individuals who are not, then, that would easily spread the disease. So I think valuing and protecting the health workers is a key one. And I think simply staying at home, really implementing it to the public that it's just important to stay at home, self-isolate, and really, follow what the government is instructing, as this is the only measure that the nation can take as a whole.
I'm just curious. Has there been any racist attacks over there in London? Some racial assaults reported among
as far as I know,
Asians.
I don't think there aren't any. But I've seen from social media, there are racial attacks due to where the coronavirus came from. Some individuals are experiencing persecution from others.
Yeah. What can you say about that? Can you?
I think it's really a good time for us to reflect in terms of the social behavior that people are undergoing. That really this is a time for us to unite and be together, and not blame it on someone else, and just really try to overcome it together.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Micah, for your time, and stay healthy, keep fit.
Thank you, Alma. I am Micah Manyala, reporting from EBC, United Kingdom, and we live in interesting times.
All right, to the Netherlands, the residents there have a strong solidarity in combating COVID-19. This was the result of a survey made with over 2,000 residents. We have joining us live is Malu Francisco. Malu? Hello, Malu. Good to see you. I can't hear you. Okay. All right, we lost Malu over there. Okay. First, let's call back Malu.
Can we try it?
There you go. Malu, I can hear you now. Hi.
Okay. Hi, Alma, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for your time. Yes, good to hear from
Yes.
you.
And it's really great to be able to hear updates from the other countries, especially from the neighboring United Kingdom and from the faraway Australia. And let me share with you the latest numbers that we have here before we go to the positive results of the survey made by a university and by another research agency. So far, as of 8 o'clock Philippine time today, the number of people positive tested, we have almost 16,000. I'm just rounding off the numbers. Almost 16,000, and to be specific, 15,723. Number of people admitted to hospitals, over 6,000, and to be specific, 6,286. Reported deaths, over or almost 1,500, and specifically 1,487. The figures came out from the National Institute for Public Health and the Environment. I've been trying to look for figures regarding recoveries, but at the moment, I couldn't find any of the figures regarding that. Okay.
Okay.
And now let's go to this survey.
Okay.
And positive results came out. The residents in the Netherlands have a strong solidarity in combating COVID-19. And this was the result of a survey conducted by the INO Research and the University of Twente in the eastern part of the Netherlands. Participants, the number of participants here in the survey, more than 2,300. And according to a local media, the results showed that 99% of respondents, almost 100%, 99% said they keep 1.5 meters apart. 97% wash their hands more often, and 93% stay home as much as possible. And meanwhile, we are looking at a sunny weekend this week, and that's why the government already reminded the residents in the Netherlands to please stay away from beaches, avoid crowds. Just like what happened in the past. And the Leiden University, oh, just a minute, please, yeah. In fact, President Rutte called on the people saying it's extremely important that we stick to the agreements not only during the week, but also during the weekends. And 81% of Netherlands residents consider it unlikely that they will get the coronavirus themselves. 31 or 38% think that they will become really sick if they do get the virus. Meanwhile, and here's a very encouraging result,
but
half of Dutch said they reprimand others for not following the rules in place to stop the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's very true. Observing the Dutch, they will tell you directly, what you're doing is wrong. There's still some positive news from the Netherlands, and this time it's from the Leiden University Medical Center. It launched an application for collecting data about symptoms and human behavior. With this COVID Radar app, the hospital wants to get a good and current picture of how the coronavirus is spreading in the Netherlands. And users of the app will be asked to answer 15 questions about their health and behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ayan. Malu, I just want to ask you something before.
Yes, go
What are your plans after the coronavirus situation?
Oh, don't rush outside. I mean, personally, I won't rush outside. Wait, I don't want to sound negative. There might be a comeback. We don't know. But anyway, don't rush. Make an intelligent decision and observe. So that's what I plan to do. And at the moment, what I'm trying to do is really do something in my own way to encourage other people, especially people I know who are really alone at home. I call them up and say hello to them, ask how they're doing. And meanwhile, as we continue to fight COVID-19, it's best to stay home. And this could be a very good opportunity for us to go over some of our files, digital files, like travel memories, and come up with something. And in fact, I put together a brief presentation. This is really brief, travel memories.
Okay.
So there you go, Alma.
Let's watch it.
Mario Francisco from the Netherlands, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Marilu. Let's watch your package from the Netherlands.
In this age of COVID-19, countries have taken actions to stop the spread of COVID-19. Measures are being implemented for everyone's sake. There are travel bans. Gatherings and events are temporarily canceled. Schools, restaurants are closed. And the best thing to do is stay home. We're on lockdown. Nevertheless, we can always find something to do at home to stay active and productive. From the comfort of our homes, let's go for travel memories. Focus for today, the Netherlands. The Netherlands is one of the 4 countries that make up the Kingdom of the Netherlands. 1 kingdom, 4 countries. The Netherlands and the Caribbean countries of Aruba, Curaçao, and Saint Martin. The country of the Netherlands is in northwestern Europe with a population of over 17 million. The name Netherlands means low-lying countries. Flat, so low that a big part of the land is below sea level. This is indeed a big challenge to the Dutch since the Middle Ages. Problem solution oriented as they are, the Dutch developed an excellent water management system to keep their feet dry. Not only that, with that ingenuity, they've been able to reclaim land from the sea. And that's why the land area of the country changes depending on how much land has been reclaimed from the sea. But wait a minute, where did the name Holland come from? Well, Holland is the name of 2 provinces. One is the North Holland, and the other, South Holland. North Holland is where you find the capital city of Amsterdam. South Holland, by the way, is where you find the city of The Hague, the seat of the government, and the foreign embassies. So if you're looking for your embassy, you need to go to The Hague. The Hague is also home to the king, and the present monarch is King Willem-Alexander. Well, I hope from the comfort of your home, you enjoyed our travel memories. Till next time, here in the Netherlands, Marilu Francisco, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Malu. Let's pray for better times, and thank you for your inspiring words earlier. Eagle News will be right back.
Alamin ang mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin ngayong panahon ng enhanced community quarantine dahil sa banta ng COVID-19. Anong uri ng transportasyon ang papayagan sa mga kalsada ngayong panahon ng quarantine? Mga P2P at shuttle service ng mga LGU, health worker, at mga piling manggagawa. Transportasyon mula sa airport para sa mga OFW. Maaari ring maglakad o magbisikleta kung mamimili o kasama sa essential workforce. Tuloy-tuloy din ang daloy ng mga kargamento sa lupa, dagat at himpapawid. Maliban sa mga ito, walang pampublikong transportasyon ang papayagang bumiyahe sa kalsada. Hindi rin haharangan ang pagpasok ng mga cargo truck at van sa mga daungan at daanan. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to!
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Let's go over to Thailand. A 3-year-old teaches us how to make dalgona coffee. Take a look.
I'm back today to see my daddy at the back, and today we're making coffee for my dad. Let's go! Your daddy's working at home because of the virus too. You can make this coffee too. It's so easy. We're gonna make the coffee for my dad. We already have ingredients. Sugar and water and coffee. We need the whip. We put the coffee. Next, the sugar. Next, the water. We need to mix it, and then it's gonna make a foam. It smells good. I hope my dad like it. Mix. You can do this for dad too. It's still mixing. Finally guys, it's done. Next we're gonna put the milk on the mug. We're gonna mix it. Makani green, go. And we're gonna put the phone on the milk. Here. Yep. Be careful, guys. Here's the diamond coffee for my dad. I go give it to him. I hope you save the coronavirus. Please save this virus, guys. Always wash your hands. Thanks for watching. Bye. This is Jana Bates, and we live an interesting time.
And that's the news for tonight. I'm Alma Angeles. Join us online and here again tomorrow evening. From all of us here at Eagle News, thank you and we'll see you soon. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times. Good night.